Hey y'all, how you doing today? Heading down to pick up the herd share, and so I figured it'd be a good time to talk to y'all about hogs. Why would people get into the hogs? And if you're not going to eat them, is there any other reason why a hog would benefit you? So we're going to get into that today. We're going to start off with what are some reasons why people get into hogs. And the number one reason why most people would likely get into hogs is to eat them. Now, of course, this won't apply to everybody because there are folks who have personal beliefs against eating meat or just pork in itself. And that could be for personal belief or religious belief. There's a number of different reasons why somebody might not eat meat or just pork alone. So just because you don't eat the pig doesn't mean that you can't still get benefit out of it. So what are some other reasons why people raise hogs? Well, if you're not going to eat it, probably the number two reason why you would raise a hog on your farm or your homestead would be for breeding them and selling off the offspring. So if you're just breeding and selling off the offspring, you're not worried about eating it. It might not matter a whole lot to you what breed of pig you get. At that point, it really just depends on what your local market looks like. What are people after in your county, in your state, in your region? What kind of hog are you looking for? That's just if you're breeding. If you're eating it, there are some benefits and disadvantages to certain breeds, and it gets into a little bit more detail at that point. But it's not as big of a deal as breeding for sale. So let's talk about the next point. If you're not looking to eat the hog, or maybe you're not looking to breed them, why else would a hog benefit you on your farm or homestead? Well, it might benefit you in a couple different ways. Hogs are very good tillers. So you might have a hog or two on your farm just to throw into your garden at the end of the year, just to till all that up. Now, there are some people who believe in no-till or once till, and nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with tilling either. There's pros and cons to it, just like there is with anything. So you might be using them to till out your garden, to clean it up, and mix all the nutrients in. And while they're doing that, they're fertilizing it. And it might not necessarily be your garden even. Maybe you're in a situation similar to us where we walked into land where the nutritional content of the soil was just absolutely depleted. There was nothing of value in there. So you might run your pigs through the pasture to till up the ground, fertilize it. Maybe got some hay, some seed in your hay, and they'll spread that as well. But what we've noticed in the over year that we've had hogs now is they will do a phenomenal job of repairing soil and getting it ready for grass, vegetables, maybe an orchard, just whatever it is that you're trying to grow up behind it. So, for example, we had them in the holding pasture. We rotated them throughout the holding pasture. It was 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And in that 3-week portion of the pasture where they were rotated for 3 weeks, you can already see little patches of grass, and that's just from one rotation. As opposed to, y'all know, we just got out of sheep. Anybody who follows the page, anyways, over on Facebook, we just got rid of the sheep. The sheep didn't do nothing for the ground. It would take at minimum 3 years for sheep to do what the pigs already started doing in one minimal rotation in one 3-week span. Now, obviously, some pigs are better than others when it comes to rooting, and we had pasture pigs, so they had the turned up nose, which discourages the rooting. But we found 3 weeks is about the point where the Kuni would start. Ours were Kuni Duroc, but the Kuni with a turn up nose, it discourages them from the rooting behaviors. But we've noticed that about 3 weeks is when they really start rooting around in their pen. So if you're wanting that, then 3 to 4 weeks might be a good time to keep your pigs in a particular rotation. Now, depending on the breed, that number is likely to change, because you don't want them to destroy the pasture. You just want them to till it up and mix those nutrients in and fertilize it. So as a tilling machine, as a fertilization machine, that might be a good reason for anybody to get into pigs. Now we'll move on to another reason. Why else would you get into pigs? Well, a lot of farmers, especially here in Kentucky, will use their pigs, their hogs, to repair a dam. So let's say you got a herd of cows, or you got sheep, or you got goats, and you have a couple ponds on your land, and that's where they receive their water. Well, let's say that pond has an issue. How are you going to fix it? There's many different ways that you can fix it, and you can spend a lot of money doing that. Or you can take some hogs and drain that pond, and then let them loosen that pond, and they'll tamp it down. They'll get it real nice and tight and compact to where it won't leak. So you can use hogs in that manner. So hogs would make a very good use for pond repair, dam repair, anything of the sort, anywhere where you're trying to contain water and it's leaking through into soil or whatever might be the deal. Another reason why some might get into hogs, and this is something that we just recently learned, is they are amazing excavators. You got pasture where you're trying to get grass to grow and you just can't get it to grow because it's just too rocky? Throw some pigs in there for 4 to 6 months, and they'll start getting a good head start, at least, of pulling out some rock. If you haven't seen it, head over to our Facebook page and look up where we're working on the duck hut, and you can see all the rock that we got from the pig pasture, and that's just from letting the pigs stay there. They were there for probably about 9 months or so. 9 months to a year. They've been in that spot, and in that time they uncovered a significant amount of rock, more rock than what we even realized was in that area. So to kind of recap a little bit on that, and there's plenty more reasons why people might get into hog and whatnot, but just to kind of recap what we talked about today is reasons why somebody might get into a hog: for eating, for breeding, for tilling / fertilizing any bit of land for, to revitalize it for a healthier crop, redamming a pond, among a number of other issues, other reasons why somebody might be interested in hogs. They're also great at excavating. They'll dig up any rocks that you might not want in a pasture or garden, and that'll help plants grow a little bit easier, so that they don't have rocks that the roots are combating against. Pigs. Why do you want to get into pigs? Why do you want to get into pigs? Okay. So let's talk about some cons. We talked about some of the pros of why would you want to get into hogs. What are some reasons why you might not want to get into hogs? Well, hogs, very similar to goats, are notorious escape artists. If you're gonna have hogs, you're gonna want proper fencing. Now, we know from first-hand experience that's not always. It's sometimes easier said than done. Sometimes it's easier to say, yeah, you need to have proper fencing. Sometimes you just got to work with what you got, and that's what we did. We threw them in the garden for the first 3 or 4 months. They were in the garden, and if you look in the garden now, it's nothing but grass basically now. But we had chicken wire, and chicken wire just ain't sufficient against a hog. They can chew through it. It's thin, so they can charge through it if they really wanted to. There's just not really. It's not much of a force to contain a hog. So good fencing is good. We found wooden boards work pretty good for keeping them in. Although you do want to have something lower down because they will try and root underneath it. We found even like the poultry net fencing works pretty good, and lots of people have success with the stranded hot wire. It just really depends on what your budget is and what exactly you're trying to do, but there really isn't a wrong answer. An unruly pig will find weakness in your fence, regardless of how good of a fence you got. And so, if a pig wants to go through stranded wire, they'll learn a way that they can get through that wire without getting popped. With the poultry net, and if a pig really wants to get out, it'll listen for the cycles, and it'll go between the cycles, or it will gather up twigs and sticks, and it'll push it up against the fence to short it out, so it can uproot the fence at that point and get out. They're incredibly intelligent creatures. Another reason, and probably one of the biggest reasons why people may not want to get into hogs, is because they stink. Now, there's ways around that. Like I was talking earlier about the rotation, if you rotate them every 2 weeks, you really don't notice much of a stink. But if they're in the same spot for especially a month or longer, you're gonna notice a stink. So if you're gonna think about pigs, maybe you want to throw them in the back of your land. If you're not if you don't plan to rotate them, then you might want to stick them in the furthest spot away from your house, wherever that might be, back of your land, back 40, or just wherever that might be. And you want to be cognizant and respectful of neighbors as well. If you got close neighbors, you really don't want to have pigs too close to your neighbor's dwelling either. But that's kind of all I got for right now. There's plenty more pros and cons that we could get into, but to keep it short, I'm also drawing up on the herd share now. But we do appreciate each and every one of y'all taking time to listen and enjoy this talk with us, and hopefully you learn something out of it. Whether you're looking to get into pigs or not, we hope that you learned something from it and got some benefit out of it. We appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in. Y'all stay blessed now.